I've seen the evolution of survivors through dialogue with you and other activists. Also, I've seen the survivors also drive the activists. For example, Kan Dok-kyun, a Korean Harmony comfort woman survivor, she painted this painting called Punish the Perpetrator. And that painting said that we need criminal prosecution, which the movement was not ready yet, but eventually the movement caught on and responded and held the tribunal, Women's International War Crimes Tribunal. So it was a real kind of relationship building as well. Being in Japan and being involved with you, Indai, we have learned a lot from your advocacy. I mean, Filipino women, you were activist pros, you had done the martial law, you had marched against the Marcos, Filipino women who brought the comfort woman case to Japan to me became my mentors and aunts. We learned a lot from your advocacy strategies and campaigns. But not only that, I was supporting the Filipino comfort woman court case that the victims had filed, and it wasn't just about campaign. It was really strides together, walking step by step. And I remember the day I met you, I think that was when the Tokyo District Court judgment was delivered. It wasn't a judgment. The court declined the filing of the case. And I remember going to the press conference straight after. And all the lolas, we call the Filipina grandmother lolas. So Filipina survivors, we call them by this endearment term, Lola. All the Lolas were on the podium, and each, plaintiff, the Lola, spoke. And at the very end of the table was this very small woman, and she was frowning the whole time. And when the mic was in, she was less vocal than other Lolas. And when the mic was given to her, she said, I'm ashamed. This is my first day of ever meeting any comfort women survivors in life. And I was a college student. And she said, I'm ashamed. I can't go back to a village like this. And if this is the way it goes, I can't go back to the village. And that was Tomasa Dioso Salinog, her endearment term, Lola Masing. And at that moment, I thought the shame is on us, And so she came out to, I think she was the second woman to come out in the Philippines after Rosa. And she broke out to seek justice for, the crimes committed against her. One day, two Japanese soldiers came to her house, and she was living alone with her father because her mother had died after giving birth, and he loved her dearly. And the Japanese soldiers came and broke into the house, and the father tried to protect Lola Masing, and then the soldiers beheaded the father right in front of her eyes. And then after that, she was taken, she was abducted and sexually enslaved by Japanese military for 2 years till the end of the war. And after 50 years of silence, I think she came out to testify to you, Indai. And despite all the stigma in the village, the women become shamed by villagers for being victimized, like in every other sexual violence case. And she came out and did this justice struggles, all the while being called so many things in her village just to seek justice for herself, but also for her father in her mind. And that day, she was waiting to receive justice, but was rejected. That was when I first ever met comfort women survivors. And Lola Masi never married in life, because of all that's happened. She said, "I'm going to fight for justice."
Yeah. It's very important, Miho. I remember that you went down into the details of that famous day with Lola Masing. I would just like to add on to that because I remembered one of the very touching thing with Attorney Yokota relationship with Lola Masing and Tatsui and you, of course, was that when they asked Lola Masing how she heard about the comfort women, and she said she heard it on the radio. She has a small radio, and so she decided to come because we were in Iloilo City at that time, and so we said where we are in a hotel, and those who would like to come, please come. She had no money actually even to travel to Iloilo, and so she decided to sell her blanket to be able to ride in a bus to come to Iloilo. And that touch, I remember Attorney Yokota and Tatsui was so touched with that story that it just showed how, you know, how she was so real and so genuine to do all that just to be able to come out and tell her story. It was like an opportunity for her in a lifetime. She was always saying that I want to say it before I die. And that was, the one thing with Lola Masing. She took on the issue to her heart, and eventually I would just like to note that the province, in her village, the province in her village have honored her by setting up a small museum, in her honor at the city hall, of Antique in Aklan.
So I've seen you and the survivors walk through the path of pursuing justice through the Japanese court mechanism, which led nowhere. They were 9 court cases filed by different groups of Japanese women who were supporting the survivors from those different countries, as well as the activists like Indai, who were working to file the case, and also Japanese lawyers, housewives, students, and priests, all spectrum of people, different age and population, joined feminists, of course, to support these court cases. And also, we hosted events where survivors speak, or activists from victimized countries like Indai would come and speak, to garner public support and awareness, and to this truth building in Japan. Um, so we did a lot of those activities, and eventually we did the tribunal, and slowly many survivors started to pass away. We have established the truth at the tribunal. We won many things, but the Japanese government kept on denying truth, and kept on denying legal responsibility. At the same time, the victims were passing away one by one. And when Tomasa Salinog, a Filipino comfort woman survivor, whom I was basically who became a grandmother to me in our relationship. I would visit her, take her around Japan. When she passed away, I really thought to myself, what can I do? This situation has not changed as far as the Japanese government goes. And then someone called me, this musical director called me. He wanted to organize a musical about Tomasa Salinog, a Filipino comfort woman survivor. And he wanted my help in organizing the musical. So I joined, and then I learned that there were 300 people from age 4 through 80, men, women, people, able, disabled, students, all kinds of people joining the musical, and which presented a story of Tomasa Salinog from her upbringing to the violence committed against her, and stigma that she faced, and that musical was about portraying a sense of dignity and justice. Now I came in to speak about the comfort women movement and Tomasa Salinog, and I thought, okay, how am I going to convey this very difficult, sensitive issue? But then when I started speaking, everyone was already there in their soul and their hearts, and they understood what justice meant for the survivors, because they were already their my hearts were soul was invested in acting out. So I saw how quickly people can understand this issue, empathize with just the justice struggles, and try to reenact as their own experiences through the musical. And the musical was held in 3 different parts of Japan. 100 people participating in the musical in each city, and it got 60,000 people in total in Japan to see this musical, which is probably like a bigger number than activist events can actually draw. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I realized um, that, of course, the Japanese government refused the truth, but Comfort Women survivors and we activists established truth. And I wanted to ensure that truth be ingrained, uh, even if laws and government policy may deny or change overnight, truth can be kept inside people's hearts and minds. And in this way, I'm not going to let the stories of Comfort Women fade or die. So that's why I carried on to perform about to tell the story of comfort women survivors, and also the story of my grandfather who went to war on the other side of the war as perpetrator, but also a soldier, also a victim with a PTSD he suffered all his life together, so that we don't forget all of the pains and all of the justice and all of the gains and empowerment and dignity which art can convey and bring into people's hearts.
I think each woman, as a feminist, I would really say this: each woman have our own sense of what constitutes justice for us. I remembered with the comfort women, there's one, the Korean comfort women, when they were taught to forgive, they will never forgive the Japanese military, that raped them. They were unforgiving. They said, no, they rape us. It is unforgivable. But for the Filipino comfort women, they were willing to forgive because the religion, the Catholic religion, told them to forgive those that have wronged them. So for them, forgiving was their own sense of justice. For the Korean comfort women, not forgiving was their own sense of justice. It was also taking back their lives. So each woman have their own sense of justice. I remembered when I was talking to the Chinese comfort women, the first one who came out, and she said, if I have the opportunity, I would like to kill the men who raped me. So her sense of justice was to get back and kill them. So each one have her own sense of justice, and I think we should recognize that not all justice is within the legal framework. It is about finding your soul back. It is about healing your own pain. It is about recognizing what this pain has contributed to the international community, how you were influence others to be courageous, how you influence others to rise up, to their own pain. And I think that was what the comfort women really did, because they had to find themselves as well. I remembered when Lola Rosa came, the first time she told us our story, she came, her clothes was all dirty, and she came, she was smoking and telling us her story, in a very sad way. She could hardly look at us in the eye. She was always bowing her head, and look us once in a while and bow her head. But because we need to get her story in full, she has to come back and tell again her story and then come back again. So we'd made schedule with her. But during this period, I really saw the transformation with her. She started to buy new clothes. She started to put on lipstick and powder, and she started looking at us directly. She started to talk with dignity and power and energy that was not there when the first time she came to testify and talk about her story. And that for me was already getting her life back, as they would say. I would like to get my soul back, so
Mhm.
it was very important.
And along the way, the transformations manifested. Um, and
Yeah.
I think that's, one of the manifestations of that is the Women's International War Crimes Tribunal on Japan's military sexual slavery, which we will talk about later. But also, justice was something that women created along the
Right.
way. It,
Yeah.
it was not defined by any court or defined by the Japanese government or even
Yeah.
international mechanism. They created and figured out every step of the way and then inspired the new definitions of what justice means to women.
Yeah.